Maybe you remember my multi-part video series of me going through the Spyderco 2008 product guide. That was fun. And in doing so, you may have remembered that I said I really liked this knife, the Spyderco Dragonfly. And as such, I said I was going to get it. In fact, I put a little box next to it. And you can see now that box is marked. That means I got it. Now, I'm not a fan of metal-handled knives, so I bypassed on these two versions and went straight for the cheapest and lightest weight version. You know that's important with me. And I got the Spyderco Dragonfly lightweight EDC knife. And that's it right there, my man. In fact, when I like a knife and if I can afford it, I don't buy one, I buy two. And I recommend you do the same if you really dig a blade and if they're more affordable like this knife. Now, let's talk about affordable. This is a very small EDC knife. I'll tell you right now, I'm going to add it to my best playlist for EDCs because of all the great features it has, the overall design. But affordable varies from person to person, and I think this is a little bit on the pricey side for what it is. It was $32 for me from my internet store. But that's still not too bad, especially when you compare the quality against other offerings that you can get. So not too bad, but still I would like it to see around the $20 price range. That'd be better for me. So anyways, on to the review of this outstanding option for everyday carry blade. A little bit of philosophy on EDC. For me, that means a knife that's small. I don't carry large EDC blades, generally speaking. Just depends what's going on that day. But generally, the knife I have on my side will be a SOG Flash 1, which I've referred to in many other videos. And it is pretty much my reference standard for an EDC carry blade. Now again, your EDC tasks may differ. You may need a larger blade, and perhaps you're cutting bales of hay or some heavy duty task that you need that, and I totally understand that. For me, my EDC needs generally calls for a small, relatively strong blade, preferably flat ground, just like the SOG Flash 1, and how you doing, the Spyderco Dragonfly. So I will, as I go through the review, compare it against another favorite EDC of mine, the Flash 1. First off, in terms of weight, how does it do? Well, guess what? It is identical in weight to the SOG Flash 1, and that is 1.2 ounces. And that's saying quite a bit, because that is just svelte. In other words, it's featherweight. This is a kind of knife you put in your pocket and you forget you have it. The ideal EDC blade, if you ask me. Same goes for concealed carry guns. I want to have it on my person in my preferred carry method. I want to forget that I have it on. That's when you know you have a very comfortable and well-chosen concealed carry pistol. And the same can be said for an EDC knife. I have it on my person and I forget I have it on. And that will be the Spyderco Dragonfly. It's just outstanding that way. Let's talk first about this blade. And man, is it a great blade. Now, I was a little bit surprised when I received mine to find out that it's an AUS 8 steel, so stamped right here. See if this sucker will focus in on that. Maybe not, maybe it will. There it is. AUS 8 is what this stainless steel is. The current catalog shows it to be VG10. This might be last year's model that I'm holding, or a previous model. I wish I had it in VG10. I think that's a better steel than AUS 8. Like I've said in some of my other videos, I think AUS 8 is a good medium quality steel. I really don't have issues with it except its rust resistance. It sucks. And so VG10 would be better, but I'm happy enough with AUS 8. I'm definitely not going to get rid of these knives. Another thing I love, which I've already alluded to, is the full flat grinding on the blade. And this is a very small blade, and therefore the full flat grinding is much preferred. Now, if we have a very long expanse of steel, i.e. we have a big blade, maybe hollow grinding is an option to save weight, but with a little tiny blade like this, I'm more than happy to have that shearing improvement and just the overall cutting improvement of a full flat grind. The edge of the blade itself is fairly small, 2 5/16 inch long, but again, that's what I like for my EDC. Small means controllable, and most of my EDC tasks, again, yours may vary, I want that controllability. If I have a bunch of steel out here, it's just hard for me to do those more delicate cutting tasks. So man, what a nice blade this is. A leaf shaped drop point blade, Typical of Spyderco designs, has an 11mm deployment hole, Spyderco spider on the side of the blade. All that's nice. Comes razor sharp out of the box, as most Spyderco blades do. I love that. It's just a good looking blade and a very functional blade. I haven't used it yet, but I have enough experience in all other kinds of blades. I can tell you right now, I'm going to totally dig it. It's awesome. Very beautifully finished too. Just that Scotch Brite finish. Just nice. Love it. It's got a nice thumb ramp. I think they call that a cusp. I might be off on that. And then a deep finger choil too that you can choke up and really get a lot of control during the cutting. I would like to see some jimping on that thumb ramp. As you can see, unlike a lot of other Spyderco designs, there is like none on the Dragonfly. I don't think it would cost too much to put jimping there. This is already a $32 knife. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, depending on your source, but I think we should be able to jimp that, Spyderco. And the bottom while we're at it. Then it would be perfect. How's the deployment on this blade, by the way? And the lockup. I didn't do it so good that way, but the deployment is fine. I have no issues with it. Pops out readily, locks up solidly, side to side. Just a very slight movement, and I'm always being honest with you guys, just a very, very slight movement side to side. I really don't have an issue with that in this knife. No up and down movement at all. It is a pinned pivot design, so we cannot adjust the pivot because of the price point they're attempting to get at with this knife. And again, if it's done right, which I think it is in this knife, I don't have a problem with a pinned pivot. So really nice lockup, fast deployment. It's going to get faster as I use the blade, but it's adequately fast as it is. Now onto the handle. The nice thing about the handle is, thank you very much, they did not put stainless steel liners in it. And why should they? This is a very small Zytel handled knife, and putting liners in it would just be ridiculous. So if we look in here, it's nothing but a solid Frn handle. That's what I love. Excellent. Just well done. How's the ergonomics on the handle? Well, it's a small knife, so you're going to have to choke up. And if we compare it to the Flash 1, it's about the same size the handle is. Ergonomic and comfortable and small. That's just the way the handle is on the Dragonfly. It's got that volcano grip on one side. That's what Spyderco calls that grip pattern. And I don't mind it. I think it's okay. And on the other side, notice that Spyderco gets it. They don't texture the clip side, so it doesn't rip your pants pockets up. Speaking of the clip, it's an integral molded Zytel clip, just like the old Cold Steel Voyagers used to be. Man, I wish they still were that way, but they're not. Well, let me give a caveat to that. The downside to a Zytel clip, and there are some downsides, is one, it can break. You can snag it and bust it off and you're left with nothing, and it's irreplaceable. So that is a big downside of a Zytel clip. The upside is it's cheaper to make. It won't come loose. It's harder to bend. I guess it won't bend at all, but metal clips, kind of like this SOG Flash 1, will bend. And I have bent them before, and then you have to take it off and rebend it back. And actually, if you're a retard like I am sometimes, be careful when you bend that metal clip back, otherwise you'll overstress and it'll just snap. And then you have to send it off to the manufacturer like I had to. So Zytel clips are not the end all. Also, because they're molded in, they tend to be set a little bit lower on the handle, especially versus a SOG Flash. So this knife's going to ride higher in the pocket. That's a little bit of a downside to the Dragonfly. But overall, the Zytel clip is fine. And it attaches firmly, and I think it'll be relatively durable. The overall carry package of the Dragonfly is just outstanding. It's small, it's light. That blade is just going to have all kinds of cutting performance due to the full flat grind. Also, it's wide, and wider blades tend to shear better. It's got a little lanyard hole here. And this knife is actually light enough that you could put it on some sort of keychain if you wanted. A little bit bulky for that, but nevertheless, it would be an option due to its lightweight. Has a lockback design. It's not a liner lock, and it has that David Boy detent in the lockback, which I think is completely unnecessary in this small knife, but whatever, I'll take it. Shaved a little bit of that metal weight off. So that's a Dragonfly by Spyderco. It is as good as my other favorite, the SOG Flash 1, I highly recommend it. It is an outstanding EDC blade. Nutnfancy.